So if you've been here for a while, you know that I've been playing a lot of Banyue. My honest opinion about him, he is a great character. I really like his gameplay. On his reveal, there's some expectation building up for me. Is he just gonna be an S-Ring Manato? Will he just be a filler character before Fleet Hunter? Will he bring something new to ZZ combat? And on his release, I'm confident to say with this moderate expectation for his design, I'm actually really satisfied playing him. He is definitely a fresh way to play ZZ, and that's a good thing to a gacha game development, where game devs is not afraid to get out of the classic way of product management, where new character have to be stronger than previous strong character or has to have a wide mass appeal is the requirement for new character design to sell well. By all intents and purposes, Banyue doesn't fit in these two categories. He is not the new Apex strongest DPS in the game on his release, but he is not weak either. And I know there's a niche to Banyue design in ZZZ, but it's far from the majority of ZZZ players. Gacha game character design took a lot of time and money, not just in the 3D modeling and combat design, but also the marketing plan, advertising, copywriting, and other corporate stuffs. It's obvious for a company to take the most safe and profitable decisions. Okay, relax, this video will not be a zig glazing of ZZZ and Hoyo first. Instead, I want to talk about Banyue character design, what I like about him, and what I don't like about him. Despite the general opinion of Banyue being a stray fighting game character going to ZZZ, I actually doesn't fully agree with this one. He has some similarity, but does he play like one? Nah. For context, I used to play a lot of Street Fighter back in the arcade days. I played a lot of Central Fiction, I played a bit of SF6 on its release, I played Xrd, and also Strive since day 1 until DZ release, not much after that. I am fully casual, never been to a fighting game tournaments outside of my dorm-friendly match, so let's talk about Banyue fighting game similarity. He has a fireball, which I find kinda funny, but it really doesn't have any meaningful use in ZZZ fight. He has a perfect parry. This is one of his most important kit for damage dealing and resource generation. He has 4 variant of EX specials, each has its best use case, and thus assigned with an input command to differentiate them. Just like in fighting game where there's a bajillion moves to learn and know its use case. I think this is where most people will make the connection on Banyue and fighting game. His EX specials is perfect cancelable by himself. This is actually new to ZZZ, because I think previous character design in ZZZ is only centered around swap cancel. Miyabi swap cancel her enhanced basic, Yishon ultimate chain trigger is also a swap cancel into another agent chain attack. Other personal skill cancel in ZZZ right now involves a projectile attack or is not a perfect cancel, meaning new skill will interrupt previous skill. This EX cancel is Banyue's strongest aspect in his gameplay, which in my opinion makes most people mistaken on his deceptively low EX special damage multiplier. Banyue has Taunt, which surprisingly has an important use in fight since it can perfect cancel his EX in the Topping Mountain, because Topping Mountain cannot cancel an EX special directly. He is technically has an install. His rat state doesn't really unlock new moves, but he gets a bit stronger, only a bit, and it makes his combo executed a lot easier and unlock new lines of combo. I might miss some, but these are basically enough to draw the similarity of Banyue with a fighting game character on the surface. Because if we go past that, on his gameplay, Banyue is far from fighting game gameplay and its mindset. He doesn't need a fireball, because there's no need of zoning in a ZZZ fight. His move is entirely different, and this is obviously due to the game engine itself. Fighting game is a 6 to 8 button game. ZZ is a 2-button game. There are no low, mid, or high strike in ZZ. There is no jump, because the game is designed without that from the start, and that's perfectly fine. Does ZZZ need a jump button and all that? I don't think so, but that's beside the point and would make a whole new discussion. Even though Banyue has an EX special variant, he doesn't have a mix-ups. You don't need mix-ups because when you are comboing with him, you should already know the line that you are going to do based on your initial resource at the start of the stun. And you don't have to anticipate or read the opponent movement for your combo because your opponent is either stunned or has an easily memorized moveset RNG that you can just reset the run if you don't like it. And this also shows that Banyue full combo is different from what a full combo would look like in a fighting game. Where in a fighting game mindset, you use that various different moves and arrange it in a way that locks your opponent in your attacks. You may need to execute it frame perfect or else you'll get punished. Can Banyue make use of his 4 EX moves to do this? No, because he is not designed that way. His moves is tied to a resource, and the time where he gets free EX, his rat state only gets him 4 extra. Okay, I want you to remember specifically this point before we go to our next discussion topics. This is something that I realized when I first get my hands on Banyue. He plays a lot like Sifu. I really love Sifu. I think I've been replaying and finished this game more than 20 times now. This is why I actually really glad that Banyue solo gameplay is fun to do. It's not as crazy as Sifu, but the feeling is there. From combo input, dodge, parry, the move cancels, the similarity is there. Banyue is a beat 'em up character, but he is sadly a lukewarm beat 'em up character. I will explain it by one simple question. Why does Banyue need 4 EX specials? Banyue design clearly based around his complexity, and here we are trying to understand it. This is not an entirely new thing. After all, Yishuan also has 2 kind of EX specials with different use case. Fighting game and Sifu draws a great direction about this. In fighting game, a lot of move options serves a purpose to make the fight dynamic. Different character will have different sets of unique moves, therefore will have different answer to different fight situations. In Sifu, where it's a PvE game that's the flow of the fight is mostly controlled by the player itself, the value of high damage in a fight becomes lower. Thus, the various moves in the player arsenal can be purely one thing: for style. You may want to execute various moves that you unlock along your gameplay, or you can do a challenge run that restricts your moves. It is fully up to you. Character extensive arsenal of moves create character uniqueness and complexity, therefore rewards mastery of the character. Banyue's wide selection of moves in ZZZ can serve some purposes. It makes him a self-sufficient DPS in a combat. He can group enemy by himself with one shot. He has an option for dazing with Earthshaker. The cancel element of his EX specials also makes it possible to front-load a lot of damage with multiple EX special wrath during stun. Because of this, Banyue has a solid out-of-stun strategy and an amazing stun rotation plan for damage dealing. And the bad side of this complex moveset is also act as a barrier of entry to gatekeep most people from enjoying Banyue, which may be bad. I don't want to make too much of an unattached opinion here, but if you ask Banyue players, his combo is the lowest of the concerns. Once you get his combo after about 1 to 2 days of training, it's all the muscle memory working autonomously without thinking too hard about the line. As his combo is not as varied and not as frame perfect as a fighting combo does, but I sadly find that it's just about it. The reality is, Banyue moves is not varied enough and not long enough to be able to be called a true fighting game character. In a strictest definition, Banyue doesn't have a combo, he only have a stun rotation. As a ZZZ player, looking at Banyue, he is an amazing step into a more complex gameplay of long combo in a classic fighting game and beat 'em up game. But on the perspective of fighting game player that all they do is labbing on a perfect combo in a frame perfect scale to find the most optimum routing, Banyue is at best lukewarm. And I think this is perfectly fine. Banyue to ZZZ is their first step into a high complexity character. Thus Banyue only serves the purpose to test the water, to see how ZZZ player base will react. Is he released just as a bait for combo oriented players and just a one-time thing? Or is this character archetype in ZZZ will be continued with Banyue as the pioneer? That we have to find out in the future. Though what can we talk about right now is... Okay, before we talk about Banyue power level, let's first talk about how ZZ makes you feel powerful. The first is simple. Numbers. Can the character kill? How much score can they get? How fast can they clear CU? All of this is based on straight numbers. How good of a buff the support gives and the DPS own buffing capability. This is a pitfall that a lot of gacha player trap into. I think there's a bad association of numbers and pulling or spending pressure in a gacha game, but I'm not gonna talk too much about it here. I think it's kinda depressing. And the second one, the one I think is the more impactful one, is the character presentation, beside their damage. Seed falling petals after smashing the ground with Seed Senior, Lycon impactful ultimate, Evelyn reverberating finger snaps. The sweet things that sometimes will make you forget about the damage number and invested in the fight itself. And then there's the Void Hunter privilege, how both Void Hunter so far has the most oppressive gameplay in the game. In some scales, it overrides the already established ZZ combat element. Miyabi, especially Mono Eyes and Miyanagi team, basically said she doesn't care. You are now constantly interrupted with my enhanced basic storm, you will be constantly frozen, and you will not get out of stun until I finish my stun rotation. And Ye Guang, she doesn't care. You are now constantly stunned, and you cannot interrupt me attacking with my 1000 swords. Banyue fulfilled both of the numbers and presentation. He is a really strong character with the right team and rotation. His attack animation and raw state is the hyper stun window rotation that I've experienced since Mono Eyes. Understanding and executing Banyue complex combo line is, in and of itself, the way of the game making the player feels powerful. Banyue is a very rewarding character, but of course, he is not a Void Hunter level oppressive strong. That's just not happening. If you are comparing Banyue with Nyabi or Yishunguang, you are definitely lost in the sauce. And there's also a classic opinion of comparing Banyue and Ithari ever since the beta version, which is probably more realistic of a comparison as they are both normal release character, both Rapture, their engine basically do the same thing. The main difference of these two agents is that Banyue has higher learning curve than Ithari. To this, my answer is, they will not divide us. A person can love both Buffman and Bad Bitch at the same time. I play both Ithari and Banyue, and my enjoyment on one character doesn't affect the other. Ithari's simplicity doesn't make Banyue complexity useless, and Banyue complexity doesn't invalidate Ithari's simplicity. Most of Banyue versus Ithari argument that you see on the internet is heavy bait. Probably. You can simply test the character yourself in the game. If you like Banyue, then I have good news for you. I am happy to provide you with guide on mastering him. If you don't like Banyue, that's also perfectly fine. And after you pass the barrier of entry on memorizing Banyue combo, like I said before, his combo input is the least of the concern. The hardest part of both character gameplay will be the same. How to get for stun window, how to gather full decibels for stun on time, and the addition for Banyue, which is the hardest part of him, how to get full fire meter before stun, thus making the Ithari gameplay of just holding basic and pressing special irrelevant. Because the deciding factor is not their stun rotation, it's their resource management. That is the essence of ZZZ gameplay. I am not going to make the argument of which one can kill with less cost, which one can kill with less substats, because that will eventually not matter. The truth is, Banyue and Ithari is in a borrowed time by the devs on getting kill at M0 and Deadly Assault. As soon as the HP boss becomes too high, or when they force Rapture Agent to use a non-Rapture buff, this will be the indicator of the end of this boss kill allowed by the dev team. Yes, we are still getting by good this season. Don't act like 15 Rest Rate and 15 Shift Force is not good buff for Rapture. Because Deadly Assault is designed for you to pull new character, not just mastering one for the rest of the game. And in the topic of Banyue power level, I think I have to emphasize that in my opinion, Banyue doesn't need any buff for now. Seeing how previous character reward like Sambi and Ellen work, they are not centered around their damage numbers, but instead it's more reworking on how they play, from miserable to at least acceptable. I've played Ellen some times ago. You know how annoying it is to dodge marionette attack before her rework? And Banyue is in my bottom list of agent I wish to get an optimization. There's definitely other agent that needs this more. The only part that I don't like about Banyue is his fire meter. It's not impossible to get 4 stun for fire meter, though it may be hard at first. It requires playing him out of stun optimally with good RNG while getting all the perfect parry, defensive assist, and dodge counter possible. You know, the devs always has an option to give Banyue the same level of resource generation like Yishuan Technique Point. Like, Yishuan has her own adrenaline generation effect in her additional ability. But of course, if you don't want to bother on getting the optimal routing of Banyue pre-stun resource generation, the solution to his fire meter is sold at his M2. It's not gonna insanely upgrade him into being able to get 5 fire meter in a fight. It's just going to make 4 stun 4 rat rotation easier to get without hoping for external condition, which is nice. But one could only hope that this problem will be solved by a new Rapture support character in the future where they buff adrenaline generation. Because so far, there's no Rapture support that gives adrenaline generation for the DPS, different than normal support that almost all gives energy generation with their ultimate. This of course also need to consider how adrenaline generation buff will impact the other Rapture agent. But by the time you are hoping to pull an agent that theoretically can fix your favorite agents, that's the time when Hoya got you by the neck on the gacha treadmill. Anyway, I hope this video helps you and see you next time.